The Israeli emergency cabinet headed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu decided to cut off all contact with Gaza Strip and to expel all Gaza workers from the territory. Dominica began the celebrations for the 45th anniversary of its independence on Friday. And thousands of Afghans are trapped on the borderline between their country and Pakistan as humanitarian aid agencies warn of the severity of the crisis. Hello, welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos and this is From the South. Let's begin. The Israeli emergency cabinet headed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu decided on Thursday to cut off all contact with the Gaza Strip and to expel Gaza workers from the territory. The occupier has expelled thousands of Palestinian workers who were previously detained and imprisoned in concentration camps. All these populations before October 7th coexisted during low-paid work with the occupier. Human rights organizations claim that many workers are still missing from these detentions and demand information. In the same sense, Israel has also cut off aid from Palestinian funds that it regulates on the basis of the Oslo agreements, which provide for the creation of an interim Palestinian self-government, thus not only violating an international pact, but also subjecting thousands to collective punishment. In this context, the UN expressed concern when Israel began returning thousands of Palestinian workers to Gaza who had been stranded in their country since the start of the hostilities.
Among these people who are being sent back, among those Palestinian workers and indeed hospital patients who'd been detained in the aftermath of the 7th of October. So, first of all, we were very concerned that at least 4,000 Palestinian workers and hospital patients were detained without sufficient legal basis in military facilities after Israel revoked their permits. But then, as you said, there are worrying reports that some are being sent back into Gaza despite the gravity of the situation there. And I don't think I really need to explain the gravity of the situation, but basically they're being sent back. We don't know exactly to where. It probably isn't clear whether they've got even a home to go to. And it's an incredibly difficult and dangerous situation because there are hostilities going on. So we are deeply concerned about that, yes.
On Friday, the United Nations Relief and Work Agencies for Palestine Refugees denounced the death of at least 72 of its workers in the Gaza Strip from Israeli attacks. The UN organization also pointed out that the last victims of its employees worked as a web programmer. On the other side, the Palestinian health system reported that the death of at least 130 health workers and the closure of numerous hospitals and medical centers because the assistance and supplies available are insufficient to cover the basic needs of the population under siege by the occupier. And from Lebanon, the leader of the Islamic resistance movement, Hezbollah, Sayed Hassan Nasrallah, gave his first speech since the start of the Israeli war against the Palestinian people. Nasrallah stressed that the battle of the Storm of Al-Aqsa has spread to more than one front and arena. As part of the ceremony in honor of the martyrs on the road to the Al-Quds and in defense of Lebanon, Hassan Nasrallah expressed his support for the Gaza Strip and the fight of the Palestinian people against the Israeli siege. Analysts consider that this speech marks a difference in the succession of the conflict. For his part, a spokesman for the Israeli Defense Forces has stated that it would not be convenient for Hezbollah to take direct part in the conflict, since if it does so, the Israeli response would be, quote-unquote, severe and very violent. And the leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, emphasized that no international entity has punished Israel's actions for the massacres in the Gaza Strip.
Arab League, no European Community. None of the well-known international blocs in the world have lifted a finger for them. the Palestinian cause and what is happening in Palestine, and all these files. All these issues have been forgotten.
And the Hezbollah leader affirmed that the element of surprise was what guaranteed the effectiveness of Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, and that the execution of the operation was 100% Palestinian.
The target was Palestine, 100% Palestine. Its execution has been 100% Palestine. Its operators have left in secret. Even the resistance brigades in Gaza and in other countries, no one knew about this operation. This secrecy, this confidentiality with which the operation was carried out, guaranteed its success. This brilliant success through the element of surprise.
United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Friday that he spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about possible humanitarian pauses in Gaza. The Secretary of State of the Joe Biden administration claimed to have discussed with the Israeli Prime Minister a truce for humanitarian reasons. Blinken added that they intend to establish an agreement on the ground that will increase the safety of civilians and allow for more effective and sustained delivery of humanitarian aid. On the other hand, he acknowledged that it will take time to prepare and coordinate with international partners.
That was an important area of discussion today with Israeli leaders. How, when, and where these can be implemented, what work needs to happen, and what understandings must be reached. Now, we recognize this would take time to prepare and coordinate as well with international partners.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. Dominica began the celebrations for the 45th anniversary of its independence on Friday. The anniversary is being celebrated under the motto Anu Celebwe, which means let's celebrate. The celebration and season of cultural activities lasts 4 weeks. The festivities celebrate music, dance, clothing, and gastronomy. The Caribbean community CARICOM highlighted in a message Dominica's leadership role in advancing the organization's agenda and promoting regional integration by congratulating it on the 45th anniversary of its independence. Dominica became independent from the United Kingdom on November 3rd, 1978. It has a population of around 70,000 inhabitants and an economy centered on sectors such as tourism and agriculture. The Prime Minister of Dominica, Roosevelt Skerrit, wished on the occasion a happy anniversary of the independence.
Every day, depressing international news cause a sense of fear and uncertainty among Caribbean people, who know only too well that we are never immune to the impacts of global events. To successfully navigate and resist global events which threaten our growth and survival, we must strengthen the relationships and cooperation that flow from regional bonds. Our Caribbean brothers and sisters share a common history, unique experiences and challenges, but with the understanding that we must work together towards a shared, common, and prosperous future.
In this context, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro took to his account on social network X to greet the brothers and sisters of Dominica. In this way, the Venezuelan head of state highlighted the ties of friendship that bring together Venezuelans and Dominicans and described the people of the island nation as fighting and courageous. And the government of Venezuela described the statements of Secretary of the Organization of American States, Luis Almagro, concerning historical rights of Venezuela as fatal. Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, assured that Almagro proved his deep ignorance of Latin American history, noting that ahead of Guyana's attempts to menace Venezuela, through the International Court of Justice, he'll find the state rejection of Venezuelans. Meanwhile, Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez ratified Bolivia's stance on the peace diplomacy to provide a peaceful solution in compliance with the Geneva Agreement. Likewise, President Nicolas Maduro stressed his rejection representing the Venezuelan people of Almagro's attack on the historical rights of Caracas over the Guayana Esequiba. And the Panamanian legislator finally desisted and will not repeal the mining contract law that has generated strong mobilizations in the country. It will let the Supreme Court of Justice decide on the matter. The chamber, with a pro-government majority, decided this option with 63 of the 71 votes of the National Assembly, with 1 against and 1 abstention. Initially, the parliament had voted to repeal the law. However, they desisted on Thursday's debate. Outside the legislative seat, thousands of citizens remained expectant, ratifying that the mining contract is the surrender of the homeland. So it will be the highest instance of justice where it will be decided if the agreement with the Canadian mining company is constitutional or not.
In this path of the Supreme Court of Justice, the search for a solution to our conflict, including the ruling of the Supreme Court of Justice, will give the country the opportunity to defend itself internationally against any economic attack made by the mining company against Panama. The actions taken to date represent the search for a solution to this problem, and the Assembly has joined this call that has been made by experts, by the people in the street, understanding that there are still some who support the repeal of the law.
And in Peru on Thursday, the Parliament of the South American nation approved the elimination of child marriage, a practice that, according to the United Nations, exposes girls and adolescents to violence. With 113 votes in favor and none against, the full Congress approved the measure that has been celebrated by human rights, children's, and women's organizations. Until now, in Peru, adolescents from the age of 16 could marry with the authorization of their parents. According to figures from the Ministry of Women, between 2013 and 2022, there were more than 4,000 legal unions with minors. Congressman José Balcázar, president of the Education Commission, was harshly criticized for not questioning the practice.
Today is a historical day, and I must salute the Congress of the Republic and the Commission of Justice that have given the size, and we have really put us in a line that marks the protection of the rights of children and adolescents. It was not possible that we have in our country a legislation that allows exceptionally and open a door in which many adults have married minors and cover up for us a case of rape.
On Friday, local authorities said a wind-fueled wildfire raged in eastern Spain, prompting the evacuation of hundreds of people. About 200 firefighters and soldiers from the Army's emergency unit were backed up by 3 water bomber planes were deployed to try to extinguish the day-old blaze that broke out on Thursday near the village of Monticelvo in the coastal region of Valencia. Emergency services said the blaze had forced the evacuation of between 800 and 850 people and has affected up to 1,400 hectares. The regional government of Valencia advised people to stay at home and avoid areas with trees and construction sites if they had to go outside, and avoid activities that could start new fires. And also on Friday in Italy, authorities highlighted that at least 3 people died in Tuscany, a region located in the center of Italy, as a consequence of the ravages caused by the passage of storm Ciarán, which has left serious incidents in other Western European countries. The Tuscany Civil Protection Department reported 2 deaths in the city of Montemurlo and a 3rd in Prato, while 2 people are being sought in Lamporecchio and another in Florence. Luigi D'Angelo, Operational Director for Emergency Coordination of Civil Protection, said that in the last few hours, up to 200 millimeters of rainfall were recorded in the area between the cities of Livorno and Mugello. The governor of Tuscany, Eugenio Gianni, decreed a state of emergency and asked citizens to stay indoors and try to protect themselves in high places in view of the floods aggravated by the overflowing of several local rivers. And we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English, there you will be able to re-watch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. Thousands of Afghans are trapped on the borderline between their country and Pakistan. Humanitarian aid agencies warned of severity of the crisis. Entire Afghan families are out in the open after Pakistan ordered its security forces to expel or deport their neighbors. The Norwegian Refugee Council and other organizations denounced that these are entire families trying to flee the hunger, repression, and violence of the Taliban government. They warn that Pakistan's strict rules to curb illegal migration are subjecting thousands of Afghans to appalling conditions. Report that between 9,000 and 10,000 Afghan citizens cross the border every day. And on Friday, textile factories in Bangladesh shut down as several workers demonstrated to demand better pay. The police informed that in Dhaka, the capital of the nation, and in other industrial cities, many factories faces mobilizations and work stoppage. On the other hand, local authorities reported clashes between protesters and law enforcement. According to the Deputy Chief of Police, Mahmoud Nasser, more than 250 garment factories were closed during the demonstrations and another 50 were vandalized. The textile workers' unions in Bangladesh demand a tripling of the minimum wage for workers in the industry that represents 85% of the nation's $55 billion in annual exports. Russian energy giant Gasprom will continue to increase its cooperation with several Central Asian countries. The new package of coercive measures imposed by Western countries against Russia has served as an incentive for new investment markets. Alexei Miller, Gazprom's general director, informed during his speech at the International Gas Forum in St. Petersburg that Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan plan to increase cooperation with Moscow in the next 15 years. The executive assured that the company has given a second chance to the Central Asia Center gas pipeline system and has started supplying Russian gas to Uzbekistan via Kazakhstan for the first time. And in Vietnam, more than 40 dogs, including a litter of 10-day-old puppies, were set free from slaughterhouses on Friday after the owner quit the dog meat trade. An estimated 5 million dogs are killed for meat every day in Vietnam, the second highest in the world after China, with some believing that eating the meat can help drive away bad luck, while others consider it a delicacy. Authorities in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City have urged people not to consume dog meat, but the trade continues. Most of the dogs killed in Vietnam are stolen pets or strays snatched from the streets using poison bait, peaceful taser guns, or imported from surrounding countries.
We have a vet training program here as well, so all of the dogs can be provided with the care, spayed, neutered, vaccinated, any other treatments that they need, and of course given a lot of affection to help them overcome any trauma that they've undergone. So here they'll receive all the rehabilitation they need until they can find their forever families. And it's a big problem, and what we know is a huge problem in Vietnam is pet theft. a significant number of dogs that are being supplied to the dog slaughterhouses are stolen pets. And whilst we've seen the government take some measures in increasing penalties for those who steal pet animals, we still know that it's a big problem with lack of enforcement. So we're hoping to work.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. Before saying goodbye, we want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share our newscast and contribute to provide an alternative news source of the latest world events, tell you stories of the people of the South, and break the hegemonic media dominance. You can find these and many other stories at our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social networks, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.